Hey y'all, today we are making cream of anything soup mix. Okay, so we are finally getting around to making this. Y'all have been asking me to make this, so here we go, y'all. And stick around to the end because I'm going to actually cook it and show y'all what it looks like. So you're going to start out with some dry milk. I am using the non-fat dry milk. Some people say that you have to use the whole milk, dry milk. I've never used it. I always use the non-fat, and it works out just fine, okay? So, but use whatever you want, whatever you like, whatever you can get your hands on, okay? Doesn't have to be anything specific is what I'm trying to get at. So we're adding 4 cups of this dry milk to our bowl. Now we're making a really big batch of this. If you wanted to make a smaller batch, you absolutely could. Just kind of reconfigure the measurements to whatever size batch of this that you want to make, okay? Mine is going into a half-gallon jar. I have some 32-ounce jars, but it was too much for that, but it doesn't quite fill up my full half-gallon jar. So the next ingredient you're going to need is 1.5 cups of cornstarch. I already know somebody got really upset at me last time I used cornstarch in a recipe, but the recipe calls for cornstarch, y'all. It is a lot of cornstarch, I know, but this is a huge batch. And the cornstarch is what is going to help thicken this soup because you know if you use cream of anything soup, cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, cream of celery, it's thick. It's almost like gel-like, right? So you got to have the cornstarch for that. And it also is going to help to keep your mix from clumping up as you store it in your pantry, okay? So then I added in a tablespoon of parsley. I'm going to add in a tablespoon of minced onion. We're going to add in 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Y'all know I don't measure a whole lot, but I try to keep something that's this big sort of measured out just so I can keep the taste consistent, if that makes sense. So then I added in a teaspoon of oregano. I'm adding in a teaspoon of black pepper, and then I'm going to add in about 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. I'm not the biggest fan of thyme, but it's really good in this recipe, so I just don't use a whole lot. So then you're going to add in 1/2 cup of chicken bouillon powder. And y'all know I did make my own chicken bouillon a couple of videos back, I think. But I have some of this in the cabinet already, so I'm trying to go through what I have to use that up, okay? So 1/2 cup of that. And then you're just going to mix this up really good. One thing that I do when I make if I'm making a brand new recipe that I've never tasted before, I try to go exactly by the ingredients they give me. So if they tell me, 4 cups of milk and 1 cup of water, then that's what I use. And then if I feel like, oh, that was too much milk, then I will adjust it the next time I make it. So that's what I recommend you do with this recipe. Try it the way that I'm giving you this because I'm telling y'all the flavor is so good on this. But then if you feel like, when you make it and you cook it, you're like, well, I feel like it could have used a little bit more garlic powder. Then the next time you make it up, add extra garlic powder. That's the best thing about these pantry staples like this. You really can, over time, adjust these to what your taste is, what you and your family like. So, like I said, that's one of the best things in my opinion about this. So once I got it mixed up, I just put it right over into my jar. Look at all the little seasonings. You can see the seasonings in there. And y'all, if you've heard me before, I feel like if I can't see the seasonings, I'm not going to be able to taste them. You can definitely see the seasoning in that. So anyway, now I'm going to cook this for y'all, and I'm going to show y'all how to do it and how it comes out. So I am using, obviously, a can of mushrooms. Now, you can use whatever add-in you want to use. You're going to need about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of it. And I always, if you've been following me long enough, you know that I always use cream of mushroom. Very rarely will I use cream of anything else. Now, the crazy thing about that is I don't like mushrooms. I'm not a fan of mushrooms, and not like, if somebody serves them to me, I'll eat them, but they're just not my favorite thing. But when I'm doing a cream soup, I love mushrooms in it. I don't know why that is, but here we are. So I'm using these, and the reason I'm using them in a can is because this soup is pretty much sort of a just heat up kind of thing. And a fresh mushroom is not going to have time to cook in here. But you could also do, like, have some shredded chicken, like cut it up really, really small, or celery, whatever you like in your cream soup, you can absolutely add that. So what I'm adding to my pot is 1 cup of chicken broth, and I'm going to put the recipe and the cooking instructions down in the description box for y'all, so you'll have all the info. Now, if you notice I didn't add any salt to the mixture, that's because we used a good bit of chicken bouillon, and it has plenty of salt. So for this, I used 1 cup of chicken broth, and then we're going to add 1/3 cup of that mix that we just made up, okay? So if you make a jar of mix, like I said, that's a 1/2 gallon jar that I used, and I think we ended up with about 4.5 or 5 cups of mix total. I can't see the jar from here, so I'm not sure, but I think that's about what we ended up with. So if you're only using 1/3 of a cup at a time, you're going to be able to use this for quite a long time, okay? So I always whisk mine up just to make sure that my mix is good and mixed in, and then I'm going to add in my mushrooms. Now I'm just going to put the rest of those over in the refrigerator till I need them, but all you have to do for this, y'all, is just over kind of a medium heat, you're just going to let this heat up. And it literally takes less than 5 minutes. And look at that. I'm telling you, I had a spoon just eating this out of the pot. Don't tell nobody, but I did. I mean, nobody cares because I'm the only one that ate it anyway. But it's delicious just like this. Like, if you just like a good cream soup, you can eat it just like this. The flavor is that good, y'all. But you know, if you don't want to do that, this is, once it cools down, you see how thick this is, just like if you would have gotten it out of a can, but not all the extra junk that you don't want, and it's so much more delicious. All right, that's all I've got for y'all today, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.